Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Mass MAGA podcast. This is season number one, episode number six, with a release date in August of 2025, believe it or not. So, we have a super special guest with us today for the Mass MAGA community. With the race for governor, taking shape here in August of 2025, we have a special guest by the name of L Packard, who is a candidate for governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Aaron, how you doing?
Hey, how are you, David? Thank you for having me on.
Oh, no problem at all. Thank you for taking the time to chat. So, we're going to jump in. Basically, the objective of Mass MAGA essentially is to educate, motivate, and encourage people to participate, just like you. So, one of the things I like to ask our guests as we approach these different meetings is, really, how did you get started? Give us a little bit of background that brought you to this point.
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, I like your model of educate and participate. That is most fundamentally sound of anything that we do in this life. So, how I got started in this race? Well, back a few years, let's go to 2020. I was an avid, regular participant or listener, follower of the old platform. And, there was everything from the far left to what people will call far right um, perspectives on there. And, be able to delineate all the information out of there was quite eye-opening and quite the task. So, I came to terms with, what was sup supposed to be right and that we're seeing revealed to us 5 years later in mass. It's crazy everything that it's coming to light. I witnessed, 2020 on that platform. So I got involved in wanting to do my civic duty, not politics per se, like everybody says, but the civic duties as our founders had framed it. And I registered from independent to Republican, got involved that way. I decided, yeah, I need to do something. So I decided to run for state rep. And, I gave a valiant effort as a first time candidate. I met a lot of great people. And, it was a shame that the previous Baker administration, they had this pact called the Baker Pact, who donated over $19,000 to my opponent. And, that is crazy how much money that Baker Pack donated to Democrat opponents to do what? To give us what we have now. It's unfortunate. Too many times people say they're Republican, but as the old Rhino slogan goes, it's only a name, and it's unfortunate because where I stand now as a constitutional Republican. We are a constitutional republic, and we are supposed to be afforded a Republican form of government. So, I licked my wounds from the defeat of the state rep and threw my hat in to be a state committee man, which I did win by caucus. So 2023, I was the state committee man for the Worcester Middlesex district, and I did the job. I went to all the meetings and listened to all the input and brought back that information to help me vote on different things at state committee meetings. 2024 last year, I ran. I failed, but I was still persistent in running for U.S. Senate, and that's where I first met you, Dave. And I thank you for hosting a nice little Q&A at one of the colleges. And during that time, I ran for U.S. Senate. It's because I wanted to defeat the evil of Liz Warren, and I helped with the Trump campaign, being a co-captain in this area where I live, and I ended up being an alternate delegate to Milwaukee, Wisconsin for the RNC. And I learned so much in and brought back so much information on that quote unquote pilgrimage of mine, and it was very enlightening. So after the primary of last year, I did a lot of soul searching, a little praying and knowledge reading and whatnot. And at first, I was going to be a third party independent, Constitution party, because it first made sense to me. I'm a constitutional patriot, and it really does make sense. So much of it. But at the same time, third parties end up fracturing the conservative voice of what republic is supposed to be.
Right.
So I quickly deviated back to being a registered Republican to hold true to the truths of our founding. We are a republic. I am a Republican. Whether I'm independent or not is irrelevant. Everybody born in America is a constitutional republic, whether they like it or not. So after doing some soul searching, to keep the story short here, I believe in God, I believe in the Bible, and I believe in our Constitution of the United States. Those are the most important values that have been bestowed upon us ever since the Declaration of Independence, and our founders fought to give us. I'm answering a call that was given to me. I'm a warrior. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a political um, think tank member or anything like that. I'm just a regular, uncommon worker of the Commonwealth. And being my experience in and out of the bubble, I can see the broad picture. And too many of the Republicans are being influenced by money of some sort. They really are. And as much as they might be nice guys don't get stuff done. We need good people, men and women, not just neocons under the umbrella of Republican or this Maura Healey evil tyranny. It really is basic. It needs to be fought against.
Mhm.
And there's one of the other candidates who says, we want a government we can believe in. No, we want a limited government, and we want leaders we can believe in. Somebody who's not going to be bought or sold or manipulated. And that's me.
Mhm.
Having met me, you can understand I'm pretty straight on my path where I need to go. And I'm answering my call.
Nice.
I have to run for my state. I'm born and bred Worcester County. My lineage goes all the way back to 1638. They brought us this. I can't disparage that.
I love it. No, that's great. That's a great success story. I mean, overcoming adversity, picking yourself up, pivoting where you need to pivot. I mean, that those are all great attributes, I think, of a leader. So, my hat's off to you for that. So, I guess a quick question I ask a lot of people is, what do you enjoy most about this? I mean, the idea is that we're happy warriors, but we are warriors, right?
Yeah,
And we don't want to be, negative and all that stuff. So, what do you like the best about your journey in this political space over the last, several years?
that is a great way to put it, Dave. Thank you for putting it that way. Is that we're supposed to be happy warriors. I'm grateful to be able to do this. Win or lose, I am grateful that I'm taking part in the greatest experiment of the world. And my favorite happy thing is being able to speak with people like yourself. You're part of the voting world. You're part of the interactive. All the people that are afraid to speak up, I listen to. You have to listen to people. You have to be open to hearing what they want to say. We're not all going to agree 100%. As the old saying goes, you can please all the people some of the time, some of the people all the time, but not all the people all the time.
That's right.
And that's the constant revolving door of this world. And I like interacting. that's part of my daily routine as a worker anyway, interacting with the public. What do you want? Would you like it?
Yeah.
How do you want your pancakes? How do you want your burger? How do you want your fish? It's, I'm a cook by trade now, so that's what I have to do is pay attention and listen to what they like,
Yeah.
and as part of being a leader, you have to be able to listen and give them the best that you can with what you have. And they want a leader they can rely on. And being a leader is more than being in charge. A leader is caring for those in your charge. I don't want to do this just for the moniker of being governor. I don't want to do it for title or power or position or anything. But I have led people. I've led men in a platoon when I was in the Army. I've led kitchen staff in a very busy restaurant. So you have to be able to delegate different roles to people and trust them to carry it out. And also too to be able to back them up when they need help themselves. And it is a team effort. It's not a one person solution. It's not one person. What are you going to do for me? How are you going to get me? How the old political speech quote that always comes to mind is, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Well, the same goes locally for
Yeah.
your towns and for your state.
Mhm.
What can you do for your state? If you can't voice, that's okay. If you can't donate money, that's okay. At least talk to the next three people who know three people. It's word of mouth, and your confidence in that message. Yes, he's not out for fame and fortune. I don't have any interest in it, Dave. It's preserving the constitutional foundings in which this country was born from. If not for me, let it be for my children and my grandchildren, as well as your generations to come after you, Dave, and anybody else listening. I've lived my life in and out of everything. I've had and lost everything twice. And you know who I blame? Myself. I don't blame the government. I don't blame anybody. It's how I reacted. But here's where the line gets drawn now is it's what you do now.
Yeah.
Forget my past, forget your past, forget everybody else's past. Yes, history is a very good guiding line. It is very good to know your history. But where do you come into the mix now? What can you do? And what I can do is help lead a group of good people out there. And I don't care any other candidate comes in here and says, "Oh, when I'm governor, this, and this, and this." I'm not so foolish or naive to believe that I'm going to be able to do everything.
Yeah.
There's an entire uniparty in Beacon Hill that's running the show.
Yeah.
I don't care how many times it's going to go back and forth, unless they're on the same page to help change what's going on in the state. A leader is only as good as the group that he's leading.
That's right. That's right. So, and I think people respond, Aaron, to that attitude, that positive attitude. I know a lot of times candidates go negative, so to speak, but I think with everything that's happening, people respond to positive, forward thinking, forward looking leadership. And I think that's going to be very important for success of our movement going forward. So that leads me to a next little question is in terms of a demographic. So you mentioned the colleges earlier where we met, I think, at the first time. I think it was Babson a year or two ago, whatever it was. But I think the Gen Z demo, whether it's 18 to 24, 25, 6, whatever, the demo is, that's going to be our future. And I've been seeing so many positive indications since the Trump campaign of Gen Z men and women, young men and women,
Absolutely.
whether it's college individuals or, regular people that are in the trades or whatever, they're coming to their senses, I guess, if you want to put it that way. So my question to you is, what's your message to Gen Z? Do you have any specific outbound programs or outreach programs with the Gen Z demo?
The Gen Z demo, having a child of my own, she just graduated from high school and will start attending college in the fall here.
Congratulations.
And well, thank you very much. As far as initial direct parental duties are almost over. And Gen Z and beyond, my message to them would be to don't focus on one source of media. Look to listen to many perspectives. Turning Point USA is a great platform for the younger generations. I believe I turned my daughter onto a connection for a connection here in Massachusetts for Turning Point. Be involved and listen to the foundations. Like I said, I'm a firm believer in God's word of the Bible and the people's word in the Constitution, that is the law of the land. It's faith, integrity, and justice. That's my tag. And restoring the spirit. The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America, which was an old commercial.
Yeah.
And restoring that spirit is the moral foundations. I've always listened to my daughter, for example. I've listened to what she's had to say, and I've given her parental feedback on it. I didn't tell her what to do. I haven't told her which direction to go. She was able to choose it on her own, and I'm very proud of the directions that she's been choosing because she had the independent thought.
Right.
And that independent thought is crucial to everyone, and especially the Gen Z generation coming up. I'm very proud of them. I am. And even here in New England, I just heard, from my own church that I go to, that New England has the greatest explosion of revival in the Gen Z generation.
Right.
It's amazing that this area of the country where we're witnessing so much of the socialism and Muslim influx trying to subvert our constitutional foundation, that this biblical foundation in which we were founded on is being instilled in this younger generation. Not every law is going to be agreeable, but as long as it's morally based, you're going to do okay.
Yeah.
And those foundations, listen to what's going on, give your input, and be in groups of the like-minded that are going to help lift up others.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, it's like that demo is our future, as I mentioned. So, congratulations on the great work with your daughter, obviously, and I think that's all exciting stuff. So looking, I like to look at trends. I'm a former Wall Street guy, so I always like to see like what direction things are going in, up, down, whatever it might be. So, as you know, with President Trump's election, Massachusetts was depending on who you ask, 8.8% move toward the right. Okay, which
Right.
is that's almost 10%. Like that's a
I
huge
saw that. Yeah,
move,
that's
right?
huge.
That's big move. So, what trends do you see here in Massachusetts that are going to help? You call it the conservative movement or whatever. What trends give you hope? I guess I could say, just generally.
The general trends is I see that more of the silent independent conservatives, we call them, are the patriots. Are I see Americanism making an upward trend in not only Massachusetts but the rest of New England states.
Yeah.
It really is, and Americanism is based on. I keep going back to our constitutional foundings. the U.S. Constitution is the law of the land. It was put there for a reason to help us subvert all the stuff that's been going on. Had it not been for the first 10 amendments, which everybody knows as the Bill of Rights,
Yeah.
had that not been voted on to be included, we wouldn't have the Constitution as we know it today.
Right.
And that Bill of Rights is very important. And I see people leaning back on that more and trusting that foundation more than someone leading a government. No, we want limited government
Right.
and individual responsibilities to be able to guide our lives in a good, positive direction. Do we stumble? Do we fall? Yes. But we, as brothers and sisters, we help pick each other up. And that's what we're supposed to do. Say I am governor. I'm not expecting to run the entire show. I'm hoping and praying for a council, a good council to be around me.
Yeah.
Everybody from, lieutenant governor on down and whatnot. And every one of us is going to have a job. And what that job is to help lift up those towns and those cities to be independently sovereign of the state.
Yeah.
The state is independently sovereign of the entire country.
Right.
That's, the 10th Amendment.
Yeah.
We're able to push back and nullify things that are unconstitutional. So that Americanism I see is going to be taking place of what everybody calls conservatism, to conserve what we have. That's what conservative is to conserve what we have. And to conserve what we have is to look at that foundation in which we have.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Americanism is going to make an uptrend, not necessarily in the Boston bubble,
Right.
but further on back through where I'm at in central Massachusetts and the western part of the state where, Thomas Jefferson put the matters of men should be written by farmers and also understood by farmers.
Yes.
The rest of the state is a treasure trove of information and patriotism and so much trade and just ready to be booming with growth, that those attributes have to be lifted up.
Right.
And you go back in time, Boston has always been a mob, and that's the crutch of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great stuff. So, I want to transition a little bit to Agenda 74.
Please, yes.
So you were kind enough to send me out an outline of some of the key areas. So what I'd like to do, Aaron, if it's okay, so I'm just going to,
Ask away, and I'm more than happy to answer you, Dave.
yeah, so I want to just kind of get the headlines from each one, and then we'll drill down just a little bit on each one, just to give people the full picture. So,
Okay.
um, so in no particular order, implement fiscal responsibility, create safe communities with law and order, help with parental rights and education reform, promote economic growth and small business support, and energy independence and lower costs, protecting constitutional liberties, and last but not least, serving every city and town in the Commonwealth. So I want to give people like the big picture first, and then we can drill down. So the first one is implementing fiscal responsibility. I think everybody knows at this point the numbers are pretty rough in Massachusetts. We have people leaving. We have a lot of money on immigration issues, migrant issues, and so that's a big deal for everybody. I mean, it's not called Taxachusetts for nothing, right? I think
Right.
it's a well-earned moniker. So one of the things in your piece was cutting wasteful spending and elimination of needless agencies. Maybe you could chat a little bit about, some of the areas that you think we could cut, and then maybe some of the agencies that are a little bit out of control. So,
Yeah, The needless spending obviously starts at the top, like I hate regurgitating all the news pieces and it bothers me that others do the same. But, just recently the exorbitant spending by AG Campbell, $300,000 on taxpayer money.
Right.
On our dime, she's gone on these vacations and little hiatuses. Maura Healey, our governor, going to France for what? I understand people taking vacations, but it really leaves a little to be desired. The the almost billion that's been spent on illegal aliens for the hotels, that's our money. We didn't vote for this to happen. And speaking, we asked for an audit.
Yeah.
The masses, including myself, voted overwhelmingly 74% for the Massachusetts audit. We all want the transparency of where the money's being spent. And if it hasn't been spent on the things that we need, such as roads, education, and job boosts, where's it gone? And accountability. It's why isn't anybody being held accountable for the overspending? It goes back to the beginning. Taxation without representation. Well, nobody's representing us now.
Right.
We might as well not exist.
Yeah. So, in like more specific, like some of the agencies that stand out, I mean, I don't know all the different agencies that are out there, of course, but are there like one or two agencies that you would see as, I don't know, out of control or that need reining in
Yeah,
specifically?
the transportation agency, is a big one. Why are you giving everybody free bus rides for the entire summer? How are you upkeeping the buses? How are you paying the bus drivers? How are you keeping it all online if you're not bringing in some type of revenue? I can't take a taxi without paying the driver,
Right.
right? I need to put gas in my vehicle. Where's that money come from? That comes from me earning a living.
Right.
So how are you fueling these buses? How are you maintaining the bus fleet over the entire state, not just my city of Fitchburg, but Worcester, Boston, you name it. And the rail lines, the MBTA, where's it coming from? It's being just siphoned away in order to give freebies. Well, nothing is free.
Right.
It's not free.
Yep. Gotcha. Thank you for that. So the next one is important as well. They all are, but safe communities and law and order. I mean, we're seeing all kinds of issues out there and safety issues and so forth. Tell us a little bit about your position, in that area.
Well, my position in that, every town and city, we have what, 361
Yeah.
roughly towns and cities across Massachusetts. And each one of those towns needs to and has to be responsible for their own police force and how they conduct their police forces. It's on them to help make their community safe, not take a directive from the governor. The governor is in charge of the state police. I get it, to help out with state emergencies and state law enforcement. But each individual town, it should be and needs to be responsible for their own police force of who they're electing chief and who they're, recruiting for officers. I just saw late last night and early this morning was a report that, Worcester, my city of birth. I grew up there as a child, and then again part time as an adult. They want to include a Muslim panel to the police force. Well, right there, that's segregation. What's the purpose of that? And whether you're Muslim or Catholic or whatever religion you are, it is protected here in the United States. But why are you segregating it by a religion, if you will, that can't take an oath of the Constitution of the United States? Because that's what you're backing as a police officer. Those police officers are there to uphold and defend just like our military, the Constitution of the United States and the laws and the Constitution of the state. We are giving too much leniency of the tossed around word amnesty of lawbreakers. We have laws in place to not just protect us, but protect them as well. Even though they're breaking a law, they are entitled to certain rights under the law for due process. Well, if you're a citizen of the United States, yes, you get that due process. But for example, if you come into this country and break a law illegally, you've already subverted due process by becoming illegal. You break into my house in the back door and I say, no, you can stay as long as you cook me dinner. I'm no better than the next person.
Right.
So those moral laws, even as I mentioned earlier, those laws, not everybody is going to agree on, but they have to be moral and just.
Gotcha.
They
Excellent.
have to, there has to be accountability starting at town level on up.
So thank you for that. So that dovetails perfectly into the next item, which is education reform and parental rights. And I mean, that's where it starts, right? I mean,
Yes.
people aren't raised correctly, whatever that, may be, or if they're taught things in the educational system that are against sort of what we're trying to achieve as a state, local, country, et cetera, I think you have some problems. So, with regard to the innovations in education, what suggestions would you have or ideas that you would bring to the table for the education space?
The education space of Massachusetts, and that's what I believe the Trump administration is trying to do is revert the education system back to the states. And within this state, the Department of Education needs to be overhauled massively. One of the and a little personal story. My daughter was going to a local high school, and she had first started her freshman year. She couldn't believe her own eyes of what was being allowed to go on with her fellow classmates, open bathroom doors and students unfortunately participating in sexual activities in open bathrooms and smoking in the building and swearing and talking back and no respect for the teacher's leadership within the school. She decided on her own to switch to a private Catholic school.
Mhm.
And there's no direct path being shown our students. We're using schools and I think I can be, we're all to blame for it.
Mhm.
We thought that we could rely on the school system to babysit our children, to look after them and give them the education they needed to graduate so they could move on to, whatever further adult paths they wanted to follow. We can't rely on the school system to babysit our children. We as parents need to be involved in their academic process. And academia is most definitely important. I can't tell you, my ass from my elbow on running, technological platforms, but that's not my talent.
Right.
My talent is giving service to others and helping them in manual labor. And I have, different trade skills that I can use. I work with my hands, and that's what built America. So you can show your children that there is more than one option of having to go up the ranks and being valedictorian and then going on to a prestigious college and being, there is in fact indoctrination going on, and those teachers that are teaching our children need to go back to teaching the core values that everybody can build upon. Math is so very important, and no matter where we are, whether you're in sales or you're trying to pay attention to statistics as me, like myself running for governor, that math is important. It's critical. Being able to read basic language, being able to understand history of our country, both good and bad, so we can learn from it.
Right.
You know, one of my trusted mentors that I love, he has read the Marxist manifesto inside and out, and he used to teach it so people could avoid it.
Right.
It wasn't to indoctrinate them into the Marxist manifest,
Yeah.
but it was to show them the exact opposite of what's going on in our country. You know, and I like James Woods, the actor.
Yeah.
We all know him as playing the most awesome evil villains. But it's because he understands, because if you follow him on social platform like X, he is so brilliantly solidified in the constitutional foundation of our nation. It's insane. He's able to portray those villains because he understands and wants to show us this is what's going on. So teachers need to be showing our students how to think, not what to think. The
Perfect.
ideology out. Your political stance needs to be out. Basics, reading, writing, history, and being able to work with your hands if you need be.
Mhm.
But those values are what gives our children education to grow.
Perfect. So thank you for that. It's so important, and it really, again, flows nicely into the next category, number four, which is the economic development piece, and small business support, entrepreneurship. I'm a big entrepreneurship guy. I have an MBA in entrepreneurship. I mean, I think it's so critical, not just the act of starting a business, but the entrepreneurial mindset. I have a program called U Inc. that I used to provide to students, which really it in some ways made them uncomfortable because now the responsibility of success and et cetera, running your life like a business is on them, which can be a little threatening, but it's also enlightening as well. So where do you stand with regard to economic development, entrepreneurship? Small business being the backbone of not only Massachusetts but the entire nation. So where are you on that?
You know, as you may read there in my agenda, is I definitely believe in tax breaks, tax cuts, tax elimination of taxes. I mean, you really need to have a license to get married? No, that's a ridiculous tax. You get taxed and taxed and taxed and taxed. Well, eliminating small business payroll taxes is a good start because having a small business, one, you have to pay for your overhead materials,
Right.
your products, for whatever you're selling in your store. For instance, a flower shop, you need to be able to buy flowers and have them shipped in. You need the coolers and the containers and able to keep these flowers in. Now, you need a couple of employees. So your payroll, you're going to get taxed in order to have employees to run the business that you're already being taxed on. It's just a constant siphoning of your resources. So for instance, for every $100 that small business makes, your profit is maybe $2
Right.
because all the rest of it is tax. And you're paying your employees, you're paying for your overhead materials, you're paying for the lights to be on, you're paying for running your business. Your profit is $2 out of 100. It does not make sense. And that money that's being siphoned away from you is going to people who don't put into the system. Illegal aliens are getting your money. All these welfares and whatnot are getting freebies. Social Security, say they get $1,300 a month, but an illegal alien comes in and gets 3,000, 3,500 plus, tags, tax, and title is all free.
Right. Right.
That for a loose analogy, that's what's going on. And welfare was created as a safety net, not as a career.
Right.
And that's what a lot of people have done with it, has taken advantage of it. Oh, somebody else will pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those tax cuts and rollbacks and incentives of small businesses are like, okay, so what is your empowerment? What do you want to sell? Do you want to sell, great t-shirts and hats like, Mr. Packard's wearing? How are we going to sell these? Oh, I've got this great local seamstress and printer who would love to have their stuff showcased in your shop. You create an incentive to showcase, okay, I will give you a discount on your products to be sold in my shop, etc. So those are local incentives you give to a small business to bring in other local resources, your food, linen,
Hmm.
and mechanics and your local repairman. And I have a small engine repair certificate that I got from a trade, and this was in 2021.
Wow.
I went back to school for another trade.
Nice.
Trades are important because those working hands, I'll keep going back to it. Working hands built America. And as smart as you may be on guiding my electronics, you still need somebody to affix that electronic. You still need somebody to fix your car in order for you to get to that office, for you to sit behind that desk and hand out orders.
Right.
Who's going to fix your car?
Gotcha.
I am. I can change your oil. I can get your serpentine belt changed within the day and have it back to you running. So who's going to be able to do that? People who are interested in working with their hands. Somebody needs to make your pizza. Somebody needs to make the shirt that you're wearing. Somebody needs to run the press that's printing this beautiful flag behind me. Somebody needs to make that microphone that you're speaking into now, Dave. So what incentives what can the local input give to that small business for whatever they're doing? And that incentive drives the growth of not only that small business. Hey, welcome to Aaron's Flag Shop. Where's that flag made? Right here in Massachusetts. We've got a printer and linen press right out in Western Massachusetts, all set up and ready to go.
Right.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's one person helps lift up another person, and that's what I stated to begin with in our interview, is that we help lift each other up within this state. And that's part of the small business incentive. You have to be able to cut the tax right then and there, so it gives the incentive to want to have a small business.
Gotcha.
That small business pays for my son and daughter's little league, not the big business is getting another Ferrari to add to his stable.
Gotcha.
There's a big offset.
Yep. Yep. So just to take that to the next step on number five of your list of issues that you're focused on is energy. And so you think about it, there's been pipelines canceled. You look at an Eversource bill where the delivery charge is higher than the cost of energy.
Yeah,
I
I saw
mean,
that.
like by huge percentage. So what are your thoughts on energy? I mean, we all need it. It's all the above approach. I mean, there's nuclear, all kinds of different things are coming back. So what are your thoughts on energy as we try to grow the economy?
Right. So, the new green scam is, it really is. It's a scam. And, President Trump just said this weekend, windmills are bogus. They don't create much energy, and they're made in China, falling apart. Look at the explosion of those wind blades off the coast of Massachusetts.
Right.
How much of that wildlife has been tortured by all those particles. My great grandfather Winthrop Packard was actually Secretary General of the National Audubon Society, and I'm sure he's cringing in his grave right now seeing this happen. We want to preserve and conserve our natural resources. Of course, we want to see our habitats and our environment grow and flourish around us. So those two gas lines that Maura Healey refused to bring in from an easy source that's right down in Pennsylvania,
Right.
out of the shale parts of of Pennsylvania, it would be doing us greatly right now.
Mm.
But no, she was so proud to cancel the gas lines. Where I just saw, a fellow comrade of ours show a bill of zero fuel needed, but was charged $50 for delivery.
Unbelievable.
Charged $50 for zero.
Yeah.
That does not make sense.
Yes.
And being here in Fitchburg, Massachusetts, we rely on Unitil for our electricity and whatnot, and that comes from Canada. It's Canadian. It is. And unfortunately, Maura Healey has made deals with Canada, usurping the president's directives. Only one source, that can't happen. We
Yeah.
can't survive that way. We need multiple sources. For entrepreneurship is competitiveness.
Right.
Who's got the best rate? Who's got the best delivery? Who's got the best customer service to get you that oil that you need? This is incredible. Oh, do I pick from Unitil? Do I pick from National Grid? Do I pick from XYZ company? Do I get to pick? That's what consumers, that's what I want. I want to have an option. That's like being one of the three candidates that are in this race. You want to have an option.
Right.
Who's providing the nuts and bolts here?
Gotcha. No, that's a
As you can tell, I'm very animated, but
I
yeah,
love this
we
stuff.
need
Yeah.
more sources to provide that energy needs.
Right.
Our national committee man, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Brad Wyatt. He had a very lucrative business that had to be shut down because of lack of energy sources. The energy, his bills were skyrocket higher than what he could afford,
Right.
which drove his business into the ground. And we've seen that happen across this state, is that if you don't have the multiple choice for your area, you dwindle and die.
Right.
I was in supply when I was in the military, and supply chain is critical for keeping the engine going. And without that supply, your engine dies. It runs no more. And I'm sorry for the euphemism, but that's what it is. So we need those gas lines. We need to have Seabrook number 2 reopened and started again. We need to have that viable nuclear energy to sustain one of these awesome New England states that is Massachusetts. We need all these resources. We need local coal shipped up from the south. We need those gas lines to come in from Pennsylvania. We need our own nuclear substations to be able to drive all these businesses that want to succeed here. And, these small businesses aren't going to get up and started if they don't have the supply source.
Right. Gotcha. So yeah, I mean, energy is going to be key. So hopefully we can get our act together and provide that diversification of choice, whether it's like you said, it's entrepreneurship 101, competitive environment. So that's
Exactly.
so there's a couple left, and just in the interest of time, maybe we can combine them a little bit. But
Roger that.
it's it's protecting constitutional liberties, but also serving every city and town in the Commonwealth, right? To your point, it's Worcester, Boston, and just kind of major metro areas, but there's the whole state. So
Yeah.
how do we kind of, or how do you, as a candidate for governor, focus on the entire state?
You know, it's uh, focusing on the entire state is getting out of Boston because it's a think tank.
Yep.
Right now, Worcester has turned into a consolidated think tank. Springfield, it's not so bad as it is out this way, but we want to use these hubs, if you will, Boston, Worcester, Springfield, as a go-to center for resources, but we also want them to be vital organs, like in our body. We have the heart, the liver, and the lungs. We want to be able to, do for the surrounding towns to be able to have reliability coming out of those organ centers.
Yeah.
So it starts with the surrounding towns of Springfield. You have Westfield
Yeah.
and Chicopee and Holyoke. You I need to go in there and speak with them and have them give me feedback. I want to ask the questions because any politician can say, "Yeah, ask me whatever you want. I'm more than happy to ask you whatever." It's redundantly and it's just it's useless now. I want to ask the questions. How do you feel about your lack of energy source, for instance?
Mhm.
How do you feel about being just monikered a college town? What resources do you need to help revitalize your town? What type of system do you need to facilitate your farming that's out here in the western part of the state? I have an uncle who used to breed show horses. He lives way out in the western part of the state of Goshen. What are your resources of getting, your news, your media, your input? How much service are you provided in getting your tow truck back and forth between the small town versus the big city? It's these surrounding towns of the organs that make Worcester. You've got Leominster, Sterling, Princeton, Rutland, Paxton, the Wachusett Regional School System. It's Worcester, like I said, I've been in and out of all my life, is an important hub
Mhm.
for arts and entertainment and transportation and getting all those grocery store items. But when you get those items back to your town, it's how you cook them up, so to speak. And I like using these euphemisms because it makes sense to the common listener, is that you have a recipe for your life. Your town of Sterling has a recipe for their growth. And that doesn't mean selling off all this beautiful land to the MBTA housing project because they're supposedly, adjacent
Yes,
to
right.
commuters and stuff. No, they're not even remotely close to being adjacent to commuters. But, somebody is trying to sell off all the land to the government. Well, it doesn't make sense. What does Sterling need to prosper? How does Westminster need to prosper? How does, Southbridge need to prosper? I want to be in those towns, and that's how I connect with all of the state. It's not just the vital organs. Yes, they're running fine. How do we make the rest of the body parts work within those areas of Worcester County, of Essex County, out in Springfield in the western part of the state? How do we get those nerves to connect to everything that's vital? We're not all going to agree on the same things, as I've stated, but we can get to a good, just, and fair level. We're all going to prosper.
Terrific. Thanks so much. So, we're running out of time. Just want to
Absolutely,
say
Dave.
thank you so much for an awesome, overview of your candidacy, and certainly wish you the best. So, in terms of final thoughts, website, social media, what can people do to help you out?
Okay, right now I'm not the usual candidate. I don't have a website, but I am on X and my handle is at Aaron L Packard 1. That's Aaron L Packard 1 on X. My email address for reaching me is alpackard at proton.me. And yeah, it's I'd love to hear from you. If you wish to donate, there is a WinRed link that is on my X profile page, or you can mail a check payable to CTE, that's Committee to Elect Aaron L. Packard, and you can mail that to 480 Elm Street, Unit B, Fitchburg, Mass. 01420.
Wonderful. Aaron, thank you so much for your time. I wish you the best. Please keep in touch.
Yes, thank you very much, Dave, and I appreciate the opportunity.